Hey y'all, welcome to And That's On What, the podcast with your host, Alicia Wajay, aka Queen of the Dark Skin Baddies. And I have here my friend,
Avona Greene. I am her bestie. She is the queen. She is the slayer. She is the guru. Okay?
Thank you.
We met when she was first getting me slayed with my
Yes.
hair, getting me slayed with the makeup.
Yes.
She literally is a queen of all different areas.
Thank you.
seen an area that you didn't prevail in.
Thank you. You know, I just don't fly, that's all.
Yeah, but you're working on it, though.
Thank you. You know, I just taking flight classes every day. I'm just
Making
playing.
a rocket ship at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
so a lot of people don't
I'm
know.
just floored.
No, a lot of people don't know that, like, we met, like, because you were my client first. And it's so
Yes.
funny because not everybody, like, I don't know. I don't have a whole bunch of friends. So I feel like, oh, my friends are my clients.
Yeah.
But, like, we really, really clicked. And, like, I think.
Instantly.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like
telling you
third.
my whole life story.
Whole life story.
Whole life
So
story.
I feel
Everything
like.
that no one else would have known.
Right,
you knew.
right. And usually, like, when hairstylists do your hair, you tell them, you know, it's already that type of setting because it's therapeutic. You feel like you could just say
Yeah.
anything. And that's really how we connected.
But I got really deep with you. I have had other hairstylists. I felt like I went down to the deepest depths.
To the
because you made me
point,
feel
yeah,
so
no, and to the
comfortable.
point where she was like, you were crying.
Crying in your arms.
In my arms.
I literally was like, oh, I'll be okay.
I held her
It was
like a baby.
Piddle, piddle, piddle. You're
Yes.
like, are you okay? I was like,
Yes, and then we like went, and we went to the back, and we had to literally like get it together.
yeah,
But really,
literally one of the most transformative times in my life.
yes, I'm
Like
so
that
glad.
was one of the lowest things that could have ever happened to me because my dad had recently gotten a devastating cancer diagnosis, and they told him that he had 12 months left to live. He had always been healthy his whole life. Had never had anything wrong. I'm such a daddy's girl, and so are all of my sisters. And I just didn't know even how to breathe, I felt like. And luckily you were able to be there during that time, and you just gave me uplifting words, but also reassured me. And he's a walking miracle right now.
Yes, and that's amazing.
It's been a year and a half since that diagnosis.
Amazing.
He's in remission.
That's so
They
great.
told him he had a 98% chance of dying within that year, and
But God.
he's here. Yeah, God
Literally.
is really, really able, and
Yes.
he performed a miracle, and we're just so grateful for all of the time that we
I'm
have
grateful
had.
too.
We are grateful that he's doing so well. The doctors are dumbfounded.
Right.
So it just shows me that even if things do get to a low point, you always have to have people that are able to lift you up in those moments.
Yeah.
Because one day we all will have something that, a travesty that happens. One day my dad won't be here.
Exactly.
One day I won't be here.
Right,
and
right.
my sisters will need somebody to lift them up.
Right.
But who do we have and who are we connected to is what really
Right,
matters.
so that's
in
why I'm
this
so
life.
glad that we connected on that level.
Yeah.
And now we're here today.
Oh, girl, you're about to get me all sentimental. I love you so
Right?
much.
I love her, bro. All right, so let's get into this topic, okay? A lot of y'all have been, I feel like everybody talks about this every day because
Every day.
everybody's always, my man. Like, where is he?
God, send me my prayer.
Literally, like Sierra's prayer. People want to know
Yes.
what that is.
Yes.
So basically today we're going to be talking about, like, finding your man, finding your dream guy, and not settling for less. Like, what exactly does that mean? So in your perspective, like, what does that mean, not settling for less? If you can give us, like, if you were to start at the talking stage, or like what would that be?
The very first moment.
Yes.
So I think before you can even think about your dream guy, you have to think about who is pursuing you. I think that God really does put the onus on men to be the first ones to be the leaders of the family, to be the leaders within the relationship. I think sometimes when women go outside of themselves and they try to force men to do things that they're not really inclined to do, it starts the relationship off on the wrong foot because you're steadily trying to get the person that's supposed to actually be the leader of your family to get on the right track.
Yeah.
So if you always feel like you have to do that, it starts to become an attack on your femininity. You can't feel like you can rest in your femininity. You feel like you can't trust this person and their judgment and how they want to do things because you guys aren't on the same page. You can't really trust his masculine role within the relationship. And I think that there needs to be that balance. I think that we're all socialized to really want to feel like a princess and then a queen.
So when you talk about like the starting stage, it's like, okay, you know, it's the text messages. Oh my gosh, he's gonna text me every day. And it's your expectations, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's been 24 hours. He hasn't messaged me. Oh, he doesn't like me. You know, and that type.
Clear.
You know, it should be clear from the beginning.
If a man really wants you, I haven't really ever seen where they're just like, oh boy, I can't wait until she comes over here and asks me on a date because I think that she's really attractive. Like, most of the time, they're going to make it known if they really want to be with you. And if it really is the case that they're too shy to ask you out, is that really the man that you want to have in your family to teach your children this is how you operate in life?
And a lot of women are sitting here on this like, okay, I'm trying to be on my city girl mess. I'm trying to be on, you know, and it's like, okay, you say you want a husband, but you want a hot girl summer too, and it's like those don't really mix. If you're really trying to find, it's like if you're really trying to find who you're trying to find or who you're meant to be with, then it's like, okay, set your standards. You can't say, oh, everybody's a F-boy, everybody's gonna just mess you over, and it's like, okay, your standards tell you everything you need to know.
You should quantify what is a hot girl for the girls out
there.
So
for the girls out there, a hot girl is basically someone who is solely like trying to get a man for what he has as far as like his looks, his money, what he can get for them, and trying to have a roster.
Trying to get over on him before he gets over on her.
Right. And most women find it's a game now. They're like, oh, I got 10 different guys. I have a guy who pays my rent. I have a guy who pays my car. I have a guy who does this, a guy who takes me out, a guy who buys me a bag. Like, and it's like, okay, but how are you fulfilled in that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, you have what you need at the moment, but it's like, you're left with nothing at the end of the day. What happens when that person gets somebody that they really want, somebody who they really want to bring home, and you're sitting here like, okay, let me just find another person to get on my roster? Is that your life story?
And eventually it runs out.
Exactly.
So that hot girl summer stuff is a young woman's game. And when you get out of being a young woman, you really miss your prime sometimes.
Exactly.
Because we only have a specific biological window to be able to have children. And most people want to have a family. Most people want to have kids one day. You know,
even if you didn't want to have children, it's like, okay, everybody craves someone to love them unconditionally.
For the rest
for the rest of their lives, and someone to continuously support them. So when we're talking about like finding your dream man, it's also you being his dream woman. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, we talk about like, okay, a man have to have all of these things, but it's like, okay, if you can't just bring the table, you have to have something to put on it too. So it's like, yeah, women have all these qualities that we're just, that are just in like just in us from birth, type of thing. So it's like, yeah, we're nurturers. Yeah, we cook, we clean, we do all that stuff. But it's like, okay, am I someone who can hold a conversation with a man? Am I a person who can talk to my man about what I like, as far as, my sex life, my emotional, physical, like everything. Can I trust you? And are you, are you gonna rub my rolls, type of thing? You know what I mean? You want somebody who's gonna be there no matter what. So it's like that whole hot girl summer trend is very like, it's draining, and it's like, it's getting old, but it's like, if you really want to not settle for less, you have to make if you're going to make that list of things that you're not going to tolerate, it's like, okay, if I want a man who's going to text me good morning every day, put that on the list. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of women find it very hard that when they get the man or they get the woman, when they get together, that all that stuff starts dwindling down. And it's like, okay, but if you keep those standards, he's not going to fall short. You know what I'm saying? If you just have to keep him on his toes like the whole time, because if you don't, you're going to get that man who's like, oh, I got her, I don't need to do nothing now. And then next thing you know, you sit next to somebody who don't shave or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you just never know what it could be.
And hot girl summer can come from a hurt girl space. space.
Yes, I agree.
I think that there are a lot of women out here that are hurting and they really haven't found a way to let things go and know that someone could have done something to you, and that doesn't necessarily always have to be something that you hold on to for the rest of your life, because you can't change it.
You can't change it.
You can do the work to heal, but you can't change it. So you going on the rest of your life in a demeanor that is really expressed through pain because you want to hurt somebody else, you want to get over on somebody else because somebody took advantage of you, you don't get to experience the full beauty of life because you're not going to be able to experience the full beauty of love. You're not going to be able to have something that's really authentic and genuine, because you're still thinking about the person that hurt you way back then that already moved on with their life. And they might never give you an apology.
Exactly. So you're just going to have to live with something like that.
You have to live with it, but you have to let it go. Let it go, let it go.
Because as soon as you release that, then you can get your blessings, literally. That's what I was going to say. So, but a lot of people in today, like, they're looking at social media, of course, for their relationship advice. They're like, what's her name? Jada, if you know who Jada is, she recently was talking about, men don't cherish women the way they used to. Mind you, she's like 23, 24. So it's like, and she's also, little babies. Baby mom. Just like, sometimes she is really beautiful. But her advice was to say like, men are supposed to, cherish, the ground that you walk on. But she also is the same person who accepted a bag as a gift, as a sorry. So it's like, you know what I mean? You're saying this on one end, but you're also teaching girls and younger generations that it's okay to like, I'm just going to receive this gift, and he's going to be sorry. Messy. You know what I'm saying?
Especially after you have a child. I feel like it's so messy. Like, I feel bad. I feel really, really bad because I feel like that puts like so many different layers on things.
It really does.
But I pray for sis. I pray for the man too, because sometimes men are hurting, and that's why they're out here hurting people too.
Right, and it will lead you to just carrying on that pain.
To heal, especially for those kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're like, okay, so it's like, even if you're in the talking stage and you're like, okay, I'm setting my standards, like this is what I want from a man, how would you get him to give you that title? Like, if we're going from step 1 to step 2, what is those indicators? Or like, how can you, if you were to put it in a plan, you know what I mean? If you can put it in a plan.
Like I said, number 1, he has to, a lot of women think that they can force, but number 1, he has to be coming to you. He needs to pursue you. You generally see with the cartoons, the girls that are chasing behind the guys normally look crazy and not the best. Let's put it that way. The girls that are allowing the man to actually come to the realization for his feelings for her, and then she receives that in her feminine. Generally, we see that girl is the antithesis of like beauty or the embodiment, I guess I should say. And she's able to actually have a good connection with him that can grow. So first he needs to come after you. After that, you need to decide what man is going to be the best thing for your life. Who can you see going the distance with? And sometimes you can pick up that from vetting that person thoroughly. So you need to be asking them lots of questions. It doesn't need to just be about, well, what's your favorite color? And my favorite color is pink, you know?
And a lot of women get confused at where, like, you're talking to a man, you're trying to get to know him, and it's like, oh, how do you feel about war, and you say what you feel about war, and they just mirror your response, and then you think they're agreeing with you, but they're actually trying to say whatever they need to say to get past wherever they need to go.
To actively listen.
Exactly.
And that is one of the hardest things for women.
Yes.
I love to talk just like the next woman.
Right, because most women, we're sitting here worrying about what we're going to ask him after that, because it's like, okay, if we're thinking of all these steps ahead of you, then it's like, hold on, listen to what he has to say. Is he mirroring what you're saying, or is he giving a personal experience, or how is he answering the question?
don't try to mold what he's saying into what you want
Right,
the
right.
response to be.
It's like, don't you like this? Like, don't you do this?
Yeah.
Don't you? And they're gonna be like,
he could
sure.
be saying the total opposite. And
Exactly.
we have in our mind that he said the total opposite of what he said.
Right. I feel like most people walk around with at least 20 different unpopular opinions anyway.
Yeah.
So something you're not gonna agree with everything somebody thinks or what they say. So that's why I'm like, okay,
Right.
during that time, it's very important that you actively listen, like you
Right.
said, so that way they're not just mirroring your responses.
And not being like confrontational with
Right.
it. Letting that person have their opinion, respecting it, and still staying true to your own core values and your own opinion. Because I think a lot of times women can go away from their core values just because they feel like, well, this is my dream guy.
Right.
You can't do that because then you get into a situation where eventually the true you is going to come out, or you're going to resent the situation.
Right.
And that person's going to feel like you weren't truthful either,
Right.
because you molded yourself into whatever they wanted instead of staying true to yourself.
Right.
So you have to be able to know what you want, number one, out of a man. Because after you have your choices of who has come to approach you, what type of life do you want? What type of man is going to be able to provide that? What type of father is he going to be? What type of husband is he going to be?
Right.
What kind of consistency do you see from him? What is his timeline? Does that line up with your timeline? And one thing that I was talking with someone about earlier today is sometimes for women, we get caught up on one part of what he says, but we don't listen to the full truth.
Exactly.
So he might have said, oh, I do want to be married someday.
Right, that someday be like,
That someday.
you know, in 2042, and it's like,
Yeah.
honey.
It could be 10 years from now.
Right.
Are you in a space to actually be actively dating for marriage right now? Could you see that happening in the next year or two?
So I feel like in the vetting process, that those are the important questions you need to ask.
Right.
And when they respond, it's like, one, it's a good idea to let them respond first, because you know your answer.
Right.
You already, you asked the question, you know the answer to your question. So it's like if you let them answer, then you can kind of see like, okay, where they're hesitant. Then it comes into like looking at body language and like all those extra things, because a lot of people miss those things because they see the glamour. They see like, oh, he just bought me this. He paid for the meal. Like, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid of the response, because if you like, honestly, I just took you out because I was going to get some after. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, you just never
like,
know.
Wrong, no, that's not your future husband, girl.
Exactly.
Let it go,
and
let it
in
go.
this day and age, we're meeting people online. Like, I met my guy online. Like,
I met my guy online.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's very it's very common nowadays to meet people without actually physically meeting them. So that's your vetting process right there, because you have to get to the stage of like, okay, I'm about to meet this man, and like, okay, it's got to be a public place. It's got to be this, because one, you don't want to put yourself in a danger situation.
Is he paying attention to what you like too?
Exactly.
Has he made a note of what you're interested in, and did he incorporate that into the date, or is he talking about let's go to Jamba Juice or get
right, and like
because
not
you're trying
listening
to get to the draws very quickly.
Exactly, and you can just tell. It's like holding that conversation. It's like if you can sit here and really talk to a person, then it's like, okay, we can move on from this stage. Oh, you're on to date number 2. You know what I'm saying? So you can always tell. Like, that's something that women all have. We have intuition, and we always know in our gut when something's wrong.
And he should be asking certain questions if he really does like you on that first date, or somewhere within the time that right before the first date or on that first date.
And you're looking at body language. Is he looking at your eyes, or he's looking, you know what I mean?
And
you want to make sure.
Be asking you one important question or some variation of the sort.
So, okay.
What are you looking for?
Right. What are you looking for? Because it's like if you ask them what they're looking for, and it's like, okay, how do I move past this part if we figured it all out?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
If you say something like, well, I'm just looking to have a good time, and I'm on
that's
my
the
hot
number
girl
one.
summer.
That's the number one.
Don't
They're like, oh no, what is it?
play
It's like, oh, I'm not
games
looking
with
for anything
guys.
serious right now, and it's like, no.
Girls don't do that either, because girls think that they can use reverse psychology, and I'm telling you right now,
it doesn't work.
X's you out
It doesn't work,
especially
when they want to get into these situationships that are based on lust, and they're like, oh, I start liking this dude, and like, no, I can make him a boyfriend, and you can't make someone out of something they don't want to be, because they're going to show you just that,
Right. And if you start off telling him that you want something that is totally not in line with wanting a relationship, and then you switch. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, most guys are going to put you in a certain category, so you need to start off correct if you really want this to be a serious relationship. I see so many women that try to use this reverse psychology thing, and it just, you shouldn't have to play those games with a man that's actually serious.
Because he's going to know. He's going to know. And what's crazy is that a lot of women, it's like you can tell when a guy knows what he wants because he will say it. It will be obvious. You wouldn't even have to ask the question.
He should have to ask you.
Yeah, literally. So you wouldn't even have to ask the question. And a lot of women are like, even the women who have a man who approaches them correctly and knows what they want, sometimes from past experiences, it could take them a while. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it took my boyfriend, like, I said no the first, 2 times that he asked me. And I'm just like, I'm not, because it's past experiences. Because it's like, you think that it's like.
That you were out here on Hot Girl Summer, though.
No, but it's just like that mindset of like, oh, is he just doing this just cause? Oh, I feel like it's too fast. Like, I feel like, dang, this just happened. And it's like, but sometimes when you have your past experiences, you don't know if your vet is the right one, because especially if you find yourself repeatedly making the same mistakes, then it's like. But you
were telling him, and you're number 11 on the roster or something.
Right.
Crazy.
Even if he was, I wasn't going to tell him.
No, you weren't. He was not.
I'm just kidding. He was never.
Girl, no. We all know you were in love.
You know, I was a little bit, you know.
It was him. Definitely.
But yes, but he was a perfect example that I can, find personally, because like my past, I'm like, okay, he's doing all of these things that I've never seen another man do. And then I'm like, dang, is it too soon? I was like, no, you just met a man who knows what he wants. And this is what's happening. And this is how it feels. And it's like, okay, I like this water. I'm going to get in. You know what I mean? So you being able to trust it. Exactly.
It's a vulnerability.
So now if you get past, okay, we're boyfriend, we're girlfriend, we're getting close.
Wait.
I would say, I'm going too fast.
So he asks you what you want.
Yes.
You say what you want. He states what he wants. He should be saying like, well, definitely I want a girlfriend. I'm a one woman type of man, some sort of variation. It shouldn't take you more than 30 days within that initial dating period.
Okay.
To me, I feel like if it's going 5, 6, 7 months down the road, this man has not made you his girlfriend,
he's never gonna commit.
Time to go. You want the man more than what you actually want, and you have to keep your goals in mind, because a lot of times we can find ourselves getting off track, and that's when you get into a situation where you're 14 years down the line and you're still this man's situationship.
Exactly. That happened with DMX when he passed away. His quote unquote wife was never his legal wife, because they were together for so long. You're ride or die, but when it comes down to things, she was left with nothing, because it's like,
sis, you deserve more.
You know what I mean? You deserve more. So some women, they don't think they deserve more. They're like, oh no, we're together though, and it's like, you need those. You need those titles. You need those. You know what I mean?
And what do you want for your future generations is what I think about too.
Exactly.
If you wouldn't want your daughter to accept this, then you don't accept this.
Right.
Because the more that you continue to go down this path, you're leading your generations into a cycle of a curse, possibly.
Exactly.
When you don't set that standard, then they haven't seen that standard. That your daughter hasn't seen it. Then maybe your daughter's daughter doesn't see it. And it's so hard to get out of that cycle, because generally, as women, we repeat the mistakes and the traumas of our parents.
Exactly.
If
so hard.
They haven't healed from it.
Because it shows. It's a lot of people who walk around knowing that they've never seen a successful marriage.
Yeah.
And, everybody just gets divorced, or, I've never seen, we were just, shacking up forever. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't, that's again like settling for less, because there's enough to go around.
Right.
So.
And why don't you deserve to be a wife? If this man really doesn't want to give you the honor of you being his wife, what is it that he's not seeing in you? And do you want to have your self-esteem go through that for the rest of your life?
Right.
You really want to believe that he doesn't think that you're worth it? That's, you have to think deeply about that. And if that man doesn't feel like you're worth it, he's not worth it.
Yeah, it's like some people also struggle with that too. They don't know when to cut it off. It's like,
As soon as you find out
right.
that man doesn't feel like you're worth it, it's time to move forward.
It's like you kind of,
there's a man that does.
Right. I was like, there's a man that will all the time. So you have to kind of put yourself on a time frame. It's like, okay, by this time, if he hasn't asked me such and such, I'm gonna. It's like you don't want to give them an ultimatum, but you do want to kind of require them to ask the question. You can't sit there and make sure that they're keeping in mind what you want. Like, if they are not up to your standards, then it's best for you to kind of cut that off.
Right. And they should be telling you all along the way. It shouldn't be like you've got to pull. The relationship should be moving in the right directions along the way. If you're feeling like you're the only one trying to go in that direction, something's not right, and maybe we need to address whatever that issue is that's not right. Let's talk about it. Don't be afraid to have those conversations. People have to be able to be real with each other and really ask those hard questions instead of avoiding it. Because I think that's what a lot of women do. Instead, they'll just be like, well, I think and I feel like maybe, instead of just being like, hey, what do you think about marrying me?
Right. And it's like,
yeah. And if he really is feeling you, he'll tell you. Or if he might not be there at that point, he'll tell you and ask why.
Exactly.
You know, what is going to make us get to that point? Is it never going to get to that point? Or is this just something where you feel like we're having fun within the relationship for a time period until you find the real thing? You know, and be able to accept that information and go forward with what you need to do. Because if you want married and he's not wanting it, you gotta go.
You gotta go.
So, you know, I guess that brings us to getting in the relationship. Have fun, I would say, throughout the dating process.
Right. Because it is a fun moment too. Yeah.
Boyfriend and girlfriendship. Like, once you get what you guys both want down, and you know that you're on the same page, live in those moments, have fun, like be able to connect with the person. Don't always be so serious. I think sometimes we get too much in our head as women, and we're not able to enjoy the moment. So have fun with that person and really vibe
just live in the
them.
moment. So
yeah, once you get down the fact that you guys are going in the same direction,
and you're as one. Exactly.
Yeah, have your fun.
So now we've talked about what now? We've talked about the talking stage. We've talked about dating. So what's that next stage we're talking about? Engagement?
Yeah, we've talked about the talking stage, dating, which means boyfriend and girlfriend. He's actually asked you to be his girlfriend, not be assumed.
Right. Just be like, but I thought we was together. Yeah, and it's you thought wrong.
You need to actually ask.
Right, you need the words.
Yeah. And then how do we get to the engagement?
Right.
I think that, you know, obviously you should give yourself time to get to know that person, talk about the deep concepts and the core values that you have. What would you want to see in your future life partner? What type of morals and values do you want for your family in the future? How do your families come and enmesh? How will you guys parent? How will the grandparents be involved? All of those sorts of things.
Right.
And then from there, you need to know as a woman, what is your timeline? So if you know that you want to have kids or start trying to have kids by maybe 28 and you're 25 at the time, maybe your timeline is getting married within a year or 2 years, depending on how long you want to have with just your husband, or if you want to start having kids right away.
Right.
And you need to make that timeline clear to him, and then from there, ask him if he's in line with that timeline as well. So if your timeline is a year, could he see himself getting married to you within that year?
So what about people who don't want to have kids? What do you think that their timeline would go on based on, you know what I mean?
Thing. So
just getting married.
Yeah, if you know that you want to see yourself as a wife by such and such a date, then you need to make that timeline clear to him. Because otherwise, and some people's timeline might be 5 years. Right. You know, so that's not to say that everybody's timeline is going to be a year, but if it really is 2 years or a year, then you need to definitely make that clear and let him know. I am not huge on like dragging it out. If you really know that you want to be with that person, then you should do it. If you know that there's some areas where that person's lacking, or they feel like you're lacking and it's not working out, then you need to be able to move forward to find the right person.
So do you think that if, say for instance, someone who you just met and you're like, I need to get married in a year, you know what I mean? Like, how would that work? Have you ever seen The Ultimatum on Netflix?
I don't think that you should have to necessarily. I mean, like, if you have to give the ultimatum, that means that they don't want to marry you.
No, it's not necessarily. It's like,
Because
if you've ever seen, like, you know,
me or what, then it's kind of like maybe they don't want to marry you right now. Then,
but that's what I'm saying, on the show called The Ultimatum on Netflix, right? It's literally people who, some of them haven't been together very long, some of them have been together very long, or been on and off or whatever, and they give themselves
been together for a year.
All of them, I figure, or no, some of them maybe have known each other, like, and then they like be together. It was so weird. Like, some of them who gave each other the ultimatum, they went through the dating part or whatever, dating other people, and they realized that, okay, I want to get married to each other. I think one couple did that. Another couple, he saw other men interested in his girl, so he proposed to her on the spot. You know what I mean?
Like, it's the drama-filled experiment of it all that makes a person get into that area of like saying, okay, let me propose. If it takes all that.
Because I'm like, can an experiment really make someone want to get married? Like, you know?
I think that a lot of them had a lot of issues still going on to the marriage. Specifically, you probably know who I'm talking about. The one where
what's her name? The kids? That one?
The one with Shanique, too.
Oh, man.
I mean,
if you've never seen The Ultimatum, you have to watch it, because it's very interesting.
For sure, because like
some of them didn't like solve their actual issues, but when they were in a space where their jealousy got the best of them, they're like, oh, let me marry you right now.
And then the Shanique one and that guy, he was constantly irritated with her.
It was beginning to be too much. So that's why I talk about, like, when we're talking about settling for less and like getting to finding your dream man, it's like you have shows that come out like this and Love is Blind and all that stuff like that, because people are so eager to get married, but it's like they kind of dismiss all the leading up that needs to happen.
That's why you have to be on the same page.
Right.
If you feel like you need to give this person an ultimatum and they don't want to give you an ultimatum, so to speak, so you're wanting to get married to them, they're not ready, you guys are not on the same page.
Right.
And I think that unless you are okay with this person dragging you out, the possibility of them dragging you out until the cows come home,
right,
then you need to make a decision on, give yourself a date. If this isn't at a point where he feels like he wants to, marry me by 3 months from now, let's say, then it's time for me to move forward. And sometimes that's painful.
Yeah, it's painful.
But it's real, because there's people out there that are ready to get married to you
right,
and you will actually align with. And sometimes we can take so much time just being like, well, he's not ready, but I'm just going to continue to wait it out.
And then they sit there being
not
sick,
the right person. They're waiting it out because they don't want to get married to you, sis.
That's really, because if you're not compatible, and it's like, when I'm telling you, the thing is, it's like, when a man, it's different, because people look for the man to do the important questions, which we do, because who's getting on a knee to ask a man to marry them? You know?
And you can't be afraid of the answer.
Right, you can't be afraid of the answer, because like a man knows exactly what he wants. Like, if you will know, and he sometimes it's okay to let the man lead the relationship, because in the end you are letting him lead, because you're not about to get on your knee. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I want to get married, but I just don't see that anytime soon. Someday, if he's giving you that response, and then you follow up with like, could you see yourself getting married in a year or two? Because that's what I see, and I want to get married to you, and this is why I feel like us coming together in a union would be a good thing.
And then you have to remember that active listening, because sometimes if you do say that too early on in the relationship, they're just going to mirror what you say, just so they can just wait it out. Some people will.
Action
you know
is
what
everything.
I mean? Yeah, action is everything. So they would show you in that time.
They have to definitely be taking active steps and saying also, you can ask these questions multiple times.
Right.
Those questions shouldn't have a great varying in response
Right.
throughout the relationship.
And just so y'all know, like when you say asking questions over and over, don't make it seem like you're trying to convince them to change their
Not
answer. If
every
they've
day.
If they've given you
If they
an
give
answer,
you a good answer, then
then
okay, revisit it 3
Right.
months later again. Hey, are we still on the same page? Are you still
right,
looking
just to
do
make
this
sure
by
you
such
would.
and
I
such
feel
a
like you
date?
would know, like if you, because most times it will naturally come up in conversation because of what's around us
And
anyway.
they'll feel so open to answer it. Too.
Exactly.
If
So
you
if they're
feel like
hesitant
there's an
or, you know.
energy where they're like, I don't know, like I really
Right.
don't think.
Then they're probably not the
you
person for you,
know.
honestly.
Yeah. If you like, you just have got to be able to listen to what people are saying. I think that also a lot of people do. As women, we think that we have to go with the flow of things. I'm just going with the flow. I'm the cool girl.
Right,
like,
right.
I just want to do whatever, you want to do, and it's no big deal. And, girls that do that, for one, a lot of them never get to a relationship because they don't make it a mandatory requirement for them to have that title in order for them to give certain benefits of themselves.
Agreed.
And then you still have to continue that when you get into the relationship.
Right.
It is a requirement to marry me if you want to have children.
Exactly. A lot of people, that's when you go back to those standards, they're not making it.
If you don't want to have children, it's a requirement. If you want this type of loyalty from me, if you want everything from me and what I have to offer as a woman, if you want me to be living with you, I have to be your wife. I'm not straying from my core value. I don't care if you're Bill Gates. And that's where a lot of girls really have a struggle as they think, well, especially when it's a high value guy, that's like a
right, that's the
word
trend,
right
yeah.
now. They will let their standards wean. And a lot of these high value men out here know that a girl is going to lean back on her standards
right,
for them
just because of how they are
at a certain status in life. And that's where you end up getting played, and you end up letting a lot go on that you really don't want for yourself.
Right,
and
right.
you don't end up having the results that are going to be fulfilling.
Right.
So I think that you have to let what you want be known. Don't be the girl that's trying to act like, well, I'm just going to go with the flow. It doesn't matter
right.
to me, because it does matter to you.
Exactly.
And it comes off manipulative when you don't tell that person what you actually want. And they can feel that energy of, she's just saying this so I can like her more.
Right, right.
When you actually are able to stand in confidence on what you want and what you want for your life, men will respect that. Because either they're going to get with the program and allow you to hitch your wagon to theirs, or they're going to say, I'm not man enough right now to be in this position. And it will save you time.
Right.
But you've got to be strong as a woman and what you really want. Don't be afraid to say what you want, because that's how you're going to get your wants in life left behind. If you want your dream life, you've got to be able to profess it.
Because if you don't, it's just going to ruin your vision of what you want in your life.
There's plenty of women that have gone with the flow, and they have sat in 30-year cohabitations, have had 8 grandchildren.
Right,
now,
the children. It's the children for me.
And they have nothing concrete to show for
right.
it,
Right.
And what type of example has that set for their family and the future generations?
They're going to think that that's okay to keep just doing it.
Went with whatever, so
right.
I'm gonna go with
We're not in those olden days to where you just jump a broom and it's like, okay.
And how does that make them look at grandpa that hasn't, stood up and been a man and professed that he wants this person to have his legacy legitimately?
Exactly.
And for me, it's about legacy. For me, it's about family building. For me, it's about love. And for me, it's about coming together and being within the institution that God created. And being able to make a better society because of that community.
Right.
So,
and that all starts with like having your standards and, making sure sticking to them. Because as soon as you lean off, it's over for you.
Yeah. I don't know any married woman that didn't make it clear that that's what she wanted.
Exactly.
Was to be married, and she didn't make it known in what time frame
exactly.
she wanted that to happen. Because if you say, well, it could be whatever, I don't care if it's 10 years from now, he's going to take 10 years to the second. Probably.
So yes.
I wouldn't say that's always true, but just, you don't want to let people think that you're not firm in what you actually want. When they think that you're kind of mobile in what you want, then they normally will utilize that. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah,
sometimes.
3.
Yeah.
They're gonna definitely use
firm
it.
On it. They'll be like, okay, my woman knows what she
right.
wants. Let me make sure I'm the right one to get in line and lead this family.
Right, and
know?
It's like you have to be better than that. You can be, you know.
And
so
it gives them a different pride too.
Right,
like,
right.
My woman, I know for my man, he was like, that makes me feel so good.
It makes them feel good. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel good.
It makes me feel like I'm doing the right things in life, and that somebody actually does believe in me enough to want to go into something so serious with me. So we've got to, I think sometimes when we don't give men the opportunity to really step and to be fully within their manhood, we rob them of the opportunity of being as great as they could be. Not just good men, but great men.
Right.
So we've got to keep in mind that we need to build them up, speak life into them, and if we really are able to do that, then we should be able to trust them to be within that certain position of our life.
Yes, I definitely agree. And so, you know, for people who are out there listening, if you want to find your man, if you want to not settle for less, you do just that, not settle for less. So we want to make sure that that part is really that token in there.
You cannot waver. You cannot waver. You better stand strong. Stand up.
Right,
like
stand up.
Stand up.
Stand up. For real.
And that's going to create a strong family.
Yes, I agree.
Create a strong family.
Of course. So, have several seats. Okay, so now we're going to go into our segments. This is a segment I like to call this first one, have several seats. Basically, this is the time, right, have several seats. Sit down. This is the time where you can tell us about a time recently this week, you know, whatever happened during your time that you didn't agree with. It can be a TV show you didn't like the ending of, someone who just got on your nerves, somebody who skipped you in line, cut you off, who knows, or whatever's happening in the world. Like, you can give us that have several seats, like, so you can go ahead.
Okay, well, this week, I actually had someone come to my job, and I had on my ring. I let you know that I'm pre-engaged right now. I'm still like making a final decision on what wedding band I want, because hey, I gotta wear that ring.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I like the one that I have, but I'm just like trying to make sure
yes.
that the real ring is really gonna be in my style every single day. But anyway, the lady was saying that, oh no, you shouldn't get married. I see that ring on your finger. You need to stay single until you're 40.
What?
So that you can enjoy all of the attributes of being single and being with different men. And
that's
having
weird.
fun.
What? Girl, you done with that?
Like, and this lady had to have been in her 80s. And I
wow.
just think that there are so many older women in society sometimes where instead of giving the younger women the gift of wisdom and the gift of how can we be better women, how can we really stand in our femininity, sometimes they get into this bitter and jealous place, and they instead want women to waste their youth, waste their prime, and that doesn't lead you to the fulfilling things that come with being a woman.
Right.
If I was to waste all of that time, then I get to my 40s and I get to a space where I have let go of all of the people that really did genuinely love me, that really did want to create a life with me. I've let go of the prospect of, for me, I want to have a family. I've let go of the prospect of having somebody there if I do get diagnosed with something terminal, or if I just want to have a fun time on a Friday night with my man, you know?
Right.
And I think sometimes we really have to let go, even as more mature women, of the hurts that we've encountered, and allow younger women to learn from that. Because she could have given me a word on, this is how I've made a mistake in my life. Have you thought about avoiding this and that so that you can have a successful marriage because I made these mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I've made mistakes in my life. Every woman has made mistakes in my life. But I'm not going to tell the next woman, well, all men are trash and you just need to be alone, because I know that leads to a bitter life.
Right.
And I know for her, she told me after we continued to have a conversation that she never found the right guy. So she doesn't know what it would take to find the right guy. So instead
she like wasted all of that time
only harping on the negativity, she in all of these years still hasn't taken the time to look inside herself and say, what was it in me that made me choose these people that were not good for me? What was it within them or within the relationship that made it not work, so I can actually be a blessing to someone instead of bringing more negativity into the world and creating a cycle of dysfunction? Because what is it going to do if I go out here and date a whole bunch of people, which in a lot of people's frame of mind that means have sex with multiple people, and mentally make myself sick because I'm creating all of these different bonds with people that don't mean anything to me, and I never have that close intimacy that we all crave as humans. So I think that situation definitely deserves several seats, because I was like, no, I said, and I really had to be like, my man is a great man. I'm not going to speak ill, features over my future marriage. He's very competent. I believe in him. I trust him. And we are going to have a great union in spite of whatever other people have to say, because it comes down to two people being able to make it work. And if we're always focused on the negativities, a lot of people always talk about, well, 50% of people get divorced. Well, there's how many 70% of businesses that start in the first year don't end up becoming long-lasting businesses. There's so many bankruptcies that happen. There's so many different things. People don't finish college, there's 60% of people that don't finish college that start off to finish college. But if you go by those statistics, you're never going to succeed at anything in life, because it comes down to you and the people that you go in these ventures with, willing to say, I am going to be the one that succeeds. And if you keep that mindset going, you might be the one that succeeds. But if you start from the beginning looking at things like, well, it's never going to work out. They say 60% of these graduates never graduate school, so I better give up now. And you don't put in the work, it's never going to work. If you say, well, I better not start this business, I better not start this podcast because there's so many other podcasts that failed, it's never going to work. You can't look at all these statistics and say, this is
you'll
what
be sitting
I'm
there
going
drowning.
to identify
You'll sit there drowning.
Yeah, you can't let people be dream killers, and you have to know that you can be great. If you set your mind to something, you can be great. You can have great things. You don't have to accept less. You don't have to subscribe to anybody else's ideals on what they think is a great life, which in your heart of hearts is not right, which God has not told you is the right path to be on. You have to, again, it comes back to staying true to your core values and knowing what God has told you your life is going to be, what you envision for your life based on what the Bible has told you is correct, but also your intuition will also say, you can even go to your intuition and say, like, man, this does not feel right. Does it feel right for me to just bounce from men to men?
It's like,
religious? Like, that literally makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. So, I just want women to heal themselves, because it really is a sisterhood that I think that needs to be stronger within the community to uplift one another instead of always trying to spew out negative information that doesn't end up being helpful for anybody. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, I'm gonna take a slight turn of my have several seats moment, because I don't know, a lot of one, everybody's heard of the shooting that happened in Texas. So from what I could hear, it was at least 19 or 20 kids that were shot and killed by the 18-year-old. And a lot of what I was hearing was that there were police that was on the scene that waited like 40 minutes to interfere with the gunman. There was a police officer who actually went inside and got his children and came out. And it was so much right then, because it's like everybody talks about like, oh, we don't want like gun control and all that stuff, but it's like this keeps happening, and it's like it gets to a point like, what else will it take? Like, how many kids have to die before y'all were to do something about it? So it's like, it's heartbreaking, because this is like the second shooting, or even it's been so many mass shootings just in 2022 alone, and the year isn't even over yet. So being that it was so easy for him, they took interviews. His parents didn't even know that he had guns with him, that he bought them like on his 18th birthday or something like of that sorts. He actually killed his grandmother before going to the school. And it's just a tragedy. And like when you sit there and see all these parents talking about, see, that's why we need a gun, that's why we need this, that's why we need that. It's like, okay, what are you going to do when your kid is fed up or quote unquote bullied and wants to go in your safe and grab what you got and then use it at school? So it's like, it's easier. You can go get a gun on a state ID when you're 18, So it's like people don't want to give up their guns, but people aren't going to take the precautions they need in their homes to keep it away from their children.
And
so
you're saying that the police didn't, like, that seems so unreal. Like,
it's unreal. It's unreal.
I don't understand. If there are guns here for protection, why didn't the police go in there? Like, I don't understand the story.
I have just as many questions as you do, because the story, one, when y'all see this, obviously y'all will see more of the story unfolding, but as of recently, this is what I've been getting from just articles I've been reading online. But police were on the scene, and they stopped civilians from going inside, so I guess they could assess the situation. Obviously people can correct me if I'm wrong, but they waited 40 minutes before they interfered. So he had almost an hour of doing whatever he wanted to do inside of there before before the police ended his life.
I believe what you're saying. I haven't looked into it. I believe what you're saying. I just, like, it literally doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like, I don't understand. I think that there are situations that could come about where a person would need, I don't have a gun, but I have situations that have come about where I know men in my family have guns. Right. And
it's hard to be completely against it,
just because there's been certain things that could go down. And it's just like, if you're really a man here to protect, why? I don't understand the lack of bravery in that situation to make sure that those kids are protected.
It's just that there's so many different aspects of this story that's still like developing that people don't understand. It just reminds you of every school shooting of like, okay, who was there to protect the kids? Why weren't the police properly trained? Even the police officer who went inside to get his children and came out, which it was just too much.
Society, like we were talking about before, I think good men need to step up, because a part of your role is to be self-sacrificing in pursuit of being protective of the community.
But even not just men, there's also women police officers, what I'm saying. So it's just that police officers in general, it's like they scream defund the police, and that's not really my campaign. It's just that it's not a matter of defunding them, it's a matter of training them and like making sure there's a proper there's just the proper role that they step into.
There's self-sacrifice that comes from women as well. We're here to protect children and even risk our lives to bring children into the world. And if there's no guy around, I mean, like, first men are the first line, and then we're the second line. The teachers, I'm sure, were
Right. So there was two of the teachers were also killed in that journey. So it's really heartbreaking because it's like every time there's a situation like this, everybody cries. There's no doubt in that. And then people get mad at like, oh, the president does this, but it's like he doesn't have much control past Congress, who has to go into these things. This is not a political podcast or anything like that. But I just want people to know that, they say, oh, it's because of this person, but it's like there's a lot of different things that go into making these laws, and a lot of people want to hold on to their power, and they won't, and things like this happen, and then everybody's sad about it. I personally think that if, I don't know if it ever would happen, but if your son, daughter, whatever, goes into a school and shoots or whatever, I think the parents of that individual, whoever their caregivers were, should be held accountable for the same charge that they did. Because a lot of the stories are, oh, they went to go get a gun out of their safe or whatever it is. I feel like if more parents are held accountable for the actions of their children, then maybe you can have your gun at home and you can still be, okay, let me be more mindful of what's in my home, because I know that I can go down too if anything were to happen. Because at this point,
mindful of not raising a psychopath. I'm sorry, but
it's
like
but
a lot
even
of these psychopaths have
oh gosh, but it's not. Serious. I wouldn't agree completely with that. Only because
say that psychopaths
but only
have
because
bad mother issues.
But you can't say that people don't have their own choices. Like you can raise a child. You can raise a child as much as you want, but
a lot of those psychopaths have bad mother issues and they have bad family issues.
But it still goes back to it's their person and their choices, though. So it's like you can be raised by the worst of the worst and come out an angel, and then the same way can go the other way around. Even this gunman, he was raised by his grandmother. Mm-hmm. He wasn't raised by his parents. His parents had no idea. He killed his grandmother and then went in there and killed the kids. So it's just like you can't really blame a parent's upbringing because they weren't on there saying he was crazy and he was on them. Safe, well, I'm not sure where he went to go buy the Texas shooting. I know that he went to go buy it out of a store, but because it was easy and he was 18, it's legal. So I'm just saying, for instance, in those situations where people do have the gun at home and their kids are easily able to access them, or they figure out a way to access them because sometimes they think that, oh, it's locked or it's this,
the, gun shop that they go to then if they go and get
honestly that's what the conversation is. It's like making regulations to like how quickly or how easily you can get a gun, background checks, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Because there's no way you're going to get AR-15 and you're going hunting and there's no woods around. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It makes no sense. So that whole situation, there's a lot of people in that situation that can have several seats, but I definitely want to bring attention to that because it's something that's going to be, it's all these families, like it's going to be happening for the next few months, like talking about it. So
I just cannot believe that men stood around while children were getting murdered, or police officers, I should say. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't understand 40 minutes.
It's
That's
like
heartbreaking. I just feel like it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. So it's like I'm sure that when they do release like the video footage of what actually happened, if they ever do, if we ever see it, or if it's leaked or however, we would see. But there's really no excuse because he should have.
It starts to make me feel uneasy. Like that's
right,
how much it doesn't make sense that 40 minutes went by. 40
minutes. And when you hear if you've seen any of the articles or any of the interviews that some of the kids actually did an interview who survived it. It didn't show their face or anything like that. But when you hear them talk about it, they talk about it as if they were playing a video game. They were like, oh, yeah, he was shooting him and the police came in and he shot him. And I'm just like, yeah, they're talking about this, but this is a very traumatizing experience for those kids.
I was about to say, it's probably just a trauma response.
You know?
Trying to make it, yeah.
So it's just, it's unfathomable. And I just can't stress enough at how important it is to parents and to not even just parents, just people who know they have children in their family, like people like to blame it on mental health and bullying, and it's like this case was different because everybody has that stereotype that the white kid who's bullied goes and shoots up everybody because he's bullied and he's sad and all of this.
I think it's evilness.
Right.
Because there's plenty of people that have been bullied.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of people that have dealt with racism
Mm-hmm.
in our community. Like, my grandparents grew up
Mm-hmm.
in Mississippi. Like, they seen people getting freaking hung, and they never went and
Mm-hmm.
shot up a school.
So it's I don't know. I think that the media is putting it on that, but the difference is in this case that I've seen is that the parents aren't saying, oh, he was sick and he was that. They just as shocked as everyone else. And they the father, I believe, actually said that if he knew that his son was buying gifts, he would have alerted the authorities. But it's like, I don't think that he was living with them at the time, and it is what it is. But it's heartbreaking because it could have lasted longer. So who knows? But that situation, I definitely want to bring into this have several seats because it's a tragedy that didn't have to happen. Mm-hmm.
What are we about to eat at?
Okay, to bring it to a lighter mood, we're going to get into this next segment called Where We About to Eat At. So it's basically where you tell us about something you made, something you ate, somewhere you went, those hot spots or anything food related that you want to give a shout out and, tell us where you ate at.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you if it really lived up to the title. Me and my man, we went to Better Than Sex in Orlando, and it definitely didn't disappoint.
So what is that? What is that though?
So it's basically a dessert restaurant.
Ooh,
very
not chocolate on my chocolate.
Ambiance in there. They say less talking, more kissing on the side.
Okay, so it's like a sex
Very
theme,
sultry.
seductive type.
Yeah.
Okay.
And normally you'll probably like share your desserts. They
Okay.
have really good drinks. I got the doubled stuff. DP.
What is that? What is that? DP. That's so funny. What did you get though? Like what was it though?
Sorry, that's a little inappropriate. But it had like it was like a cheesecake cake mixed.
Okay.
Little thing. And it was super good. It had vanilla ice cream and it had a white chocolate with milk chocolate.
Okay.
Like garnish on it. And was super delicious. We had so many good talks. Of course, like you'll laugh at the different titles that are on the menu because it's just so like over the top. When we left the restaurant, we told the waiter that it was our first time going there, and they were like, "Ooh, you're not a virgin anymore."
That's funny. That's
so,
cute.
Yeah, it was a very cute.
It's like, okay, marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a fabulous time. The service was amazing, and the restaurant itself was beautiful. Beautiful ambiance. Kind of a little dim setting. You can get all cozy if you're trying to spark a little bit of a spark. You know what I mean? So I think you guys
That's
would enjoy
nice.
it.
Okay, that's nice. Okay. Well, mine is definitely I don't know if y'all been in Lakeland. I love going to Gaskins. If you don't know what Gaskins is, they started in Winter Haven. But it's literally barbecue and lobster rolls, a weird mix, but like it's really good. I actually used to work there. I won't work there ever again, but the food is great. They have like their lobster rolls are really, really good. That's actually the first time I had a lobster roll. It's usually like on a brioche bun. You can like they mix it with different things, and then my boyfriend always has like their ribs. They have really great sides. They have like salted marshmallow, sweet potato fries, their mac and cheese, banana pudding. Like they have really good choices. It's really like it really be bomb. Like it really is good. I ain't working there no more. Y'all crazy, but y'all got some good food. I'll give you that. But yeah, they
Shout out.
yeah, right. It's like shout out. So if you're ever in Lakeland, you gotta hit up Gaskins. It's definitely a really good hot spot to eat. Step on these necks, sis. Okay, now this last segment we're going to do is called Step on These Necks, sis.
But it's step.
Yes, I love the ad-lib. Not the step. But yes, it's where you give someone their flowers. It is a time to tell us about somebody you look up to, somebody who's just been doing great things lately, somebody who has done something to impress you lately. So whoever that may be. So go ahead.
So I have to give the queen tins. We're the 10s are due to my little sister, Avona Greene.
Aww.
She just graduated with honors.
Oh, yes,
from
ma'am.
The honors
Yes,
program
ma'am.
at University of Illinois.
Oh,
In
yes.
Springfield. You better go, sis.
Yes,
She
congrats.
started her
Oh, that's so
master's
good.
program in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
She's going for
She's
her
going right back.
master's
Okay.
in business administration. She's in
Yes.
her career.
Yes.
I am just over the moon proud of her.
Oh, yeah.
She has really been able to persevere through so many different things that we went through this year with our family's health, and through it all, she continued to go with honors, to seek out opportunities and internships, and now she's in her career, and she's going to be in school. I'm like, I can't keep up. I can't keep up.
Oh, well, congrats to her. Yes.
I'm just over the moon for her. I can't wait to see what she does in the future. And I think as older siblings, at least for me, I always hope and pray for my siblings that are younger than I to do better than even I did. I
literally,
pray for that for my kids, my nieces,
everybody.
I pray for that for my little sister, you know?
Yes.
So, love you, baby sis.
Yes. Step on these necks.
You better stop.
So, and that's so funny, you mentioned graduation, because, you know, my little brother, he stepped on these necks. He stepped on these boys' necks.
He said, I'm gonna have to step on.
But he graduated from 5th grade, so he's going to middle school.
Elementary school is over.
First of all, it's like low key. It's like I'm terrified for him, and I shouldn't be. Only because he's very like in a cocoon. Like he's very to himself. He only speaks to his cousins. We have a family where your cousins are your friends. He's a great kid. Right. I'm saying like, you know, day to day, like, you know what I mean? He's going to middle school. So now he has like electives and all these things that he gets to really get into what he thinks he's going to do when he gets to high school and stuff like that. So, and he's already very like, I don't know, he's very to himself, and he relies on his cousins being his friends. So I'm hoping that it gets him to break out of his shell a little bit. But, you know, Isaac, I want to shout out Isaac Gully, you know, and my brother has a, you know, he has a, I don't know what it even is called, but he just has this feeling in his heart that he needs to create. Like I was like, you know, you probably could get to robotics or something like that. Like all he does is play the game, but in that there's so much you can do. When I ask him questions, I'm like, okay, if you like to play a game, all right, you have to go to college first of all, because if you want to, you can learn to make games, you could do coding, you could do, there's so much in the game system. And one, gaming is $1 billion business. First of all, let's start there. So, you know, I'm getting him started with his YouTube. So when y'all see his YouTube popping, y'all will know that's my little brother. So because he wants to start doing that. So I feel like that'll help him break out of his shell a little bit more. But yeah, he graduated from the 5th grade, and you know, I'm so excited for him.
Yes, and he's gonna do great. Just already claim that, sis.
Yes.
He's gonna do amazing. I'm excited for him. Congratulations, Isaac.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of And That's On What, the podcast with your girl, Alicia Waje, a.k.a. Queen of Dark Skin Baddies. And you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at And That's On What Pod. And also follow me on Patreon for exclusive content at ATOWpod, where you can get behind the scenes, extra videos, all that jazz. And you can become a top 10 member and get some merch too.
It gets juicy.
Right, it gets juicy on here. And you can go ahead and have the people know where they can find you or follow you.
You can find me on Facebook. My name is Avona, A-V as in Victor, O-N-A, last name Greene, Greene. And you can also find me on Snapchat. I do little updates about my life on there, tell you about my traveling and my everyday life. You can find me on there at Avona #1, A-V as in Victor, O-N-A #1. And I can't wait to see you guys on there. It's going to be so fun.
It's going to be so fun. And we want to thank you for hanging out with me. And we're having a good old time. So we're going to see you guys next time, each every week. Follow us on Patreon again if you want that exclusive content at ATOWpod. And that's on what?
Not settling for less, ladies.